Hi, this is a podcast about shit that bothers us.
Yep. Our world that is falling apart and all the lovely things our governments and corporations, corporate overlords do that we don't like. Well, you know what my daughter said to me yesterday that hurt a little?
Uh-oh.
We were watching some a trumpeter play theme songs from cartoons over the years, and he started in like 1927 with Steamboat Willie and went up to the thing, and I got excited when the 90s came on because that's my jam, 80s and 90s, and I knew the words to some of the songs like DuckTales and stuff. And I said to her, "You don't know the DuckTales song?" And she said, "I don't really know anything from the 19s."
Oh my
It's
god.
like, yeah, that's a whole century ago.
It really is. Fuck. And you're like 20 years younger than me, so you can go fuck yourself.
There's You're in your 60s?
No, I'm not in my 60s.
Then I'm not 20 years younger than you.
Well, wait, what are you? You're 40 something, right?
I'll be 46 in June.
Okay, so you're about 9 years younger than me. But you can still go fuck yourself just because that's how this shit works. So back to the topic on the bonding thing with dip fuck disgusting Trump is what you saw that the bonding company didn't have assets to cover that.
Well, the company that wrote the bond doesn't, but there's a holding company that might. And so what Letitia Jane asked was for financial statements to prove that they have it because she doesn't really know. But I think we should talk about the guy that owns that company because he's a piece of shit. He made his billions issuing subprime auto loans, which means those are the auto loans you give to people with bad credit, where you charge them 30% interest, and really just to make sure you can keep them poor, since everyone needs a car.
Like CarMax or whatever yeah.
Well, not CarMax. I don't know. We have one called JD Buyrider, where anyone can go buy a car, but you're going to have 20 to 30% interest on
That
it.
sounds shady as fuck.
Yeah, it's terrible. But that's how he made his billions. And then, he started an insurance company too, which he probably underwrote, used the insurance company to underwrite the cars and stuff like that. And so he made his billions, as all billionaires do, by exploiting the working class. So fuck him with a big F. And I'm not surprised that he's a Trump supporter and wanted to help Trump stay out of prison or whatever.
Fucking
But
gross.
yeah, his financial statements are shady, and the company that he owns a couple. There's a holding company that owns the company that underwrote the bond, and he owns both. But the actual company that underwrote the bond doesn't appear to have the assets to cover the bond. So I think they had 10 days to come up with the financial statements and proof of all that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he may be able to prove that he does have the assets. I don't know, but it's
So what have you heard about the appeal hearing? Because this is all related to the appeal that he's filed. But is the appeal hearing happening on schedule, or is there something holding that back? Because this wouldn't hold that back, because the bond's a separate issue from the filing.
yeah. And I don't know. I honestly don't know anything about the appeal. I didn't know they set a date for the appeal hearing. Did
Uh,
they?
Hang on, I'm going to check real quick. I don't have enough room on this desk. Get the ASMR of my keyboard. Well, all I see is that the appeal court. See, this is where I'm confused because there's an appeal court that scaled back the 464 million to 175. I think that might actually be a different court um, than the appeal on the judgment, like the fact that he's got to pay anything. I don't know. It might be the same court. Financial portion. Yeah, I don't see anything about a date, but they have it. I mean, it's been filed with them, so I just I don't know if all this hoo ha about what the amount of the bond is affecting the actual hearing of the case.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would because first of all, I think they're probably different courts, right? Because the court that he's issuing the bond to is the court that the original judgment came from, and
Yeah,
the appeal would be going to a different higher court.
true. It's all everything's so fucking stupid. It's just
Yeah, it's hard to keep. He's also got the criminal trial, the hush money criminal trial happening
Oh, by the
coming
way,
up.
yeah, on that he filed a motion yesterday or something to have Judge Marchand, who is the judge for that case, recused. I haven't seen
Yeah,
papers.
because his daughter worked for a Democrat once.
Oh, the daughter that he's been dragging in social media that he's got a gag order to shut the fuck up about.
Yeah. Well, that's all he does. He can't defend himself on the merits because he's
Never.
guilty as fuck.
Yeah.
So this is what he does. He just ad hominem attacks against judges if he can, family members if he can't.
Yep. It's fucking awful.
He really is a terrible person.
Worst of the worst. We got any other? Let's exhaust the whole Trump topic. Is there anything else about Trump that we should touch on this week? Ew.
I don't know. I didn't put anything else on the outline that I made this morning, but
Hang on, I'm pulling up Google News real quick because that's my go-to aggregate.
yeah, I go to Google News and Al Jazeera. That's where I pull the stuff from.
Oh, Trump had a $50 million fundraiser with hedge fund managers, or he expected to raise like 50 million from these wonderful hedge fund managers that he had.
Yeah, well, I will say, first of all, that he's still far behind Biden in fundraising for this election cycle. But also, it's just he said he raised $50 million. I don't trust anything he says. So who knows? But honestly, if you're a hedge fund manager throwing $50 million at Trump, I mean, I know it's probably not one guy that did that, although it could have been. You're really just throwing your money in the toilet.
Yeah, right.
It makes no sense.
I mean, obviously, he's making promises to these people that he's going to do things. Oh God, I can't even believe I'm saying this.
Well, there was a video that came out of him speaking to a group of rich people where he literally just he didn't know he was on camera. It wasn't a publicized event, but somebody in the audience filmed it, and he was like, "Yeah, you put me in the office, I'll make sure I cut your taxes for all of you guys." And it was just a bunch of rich fucks at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh my God.
But I mean, it's not like the Democrats don't keep taxes low on rich people either, because they do.
Yeah.
Nobody's taxing rich people the way they used to be taxed a generation or two ago. Nobody's even talking about it.
Yeah, it was Reagan that rolled everything into the present state of
Yep.
affairs.
And Democrats are right on board with that trickle down bullshit.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you still see people that there will be videos posted of Reagan saying something nostalgic or whatever, and Democrats are like, "Oh my God, I miss the Reagan Republicans." Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah, that's where it all went to shit.
People are not paying attention.
So Reagan, I was born in 78 and Reagan was elected in 80. So my entire life has been
Oh my God,
under that.
it's all awful. I don't have
Yeah.
any good memories either. I mean, the whole fucking from '66 forward was just as bad. Nothing better.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what else to talk about Trump wise. I'm sick of that asshole.
Moving forward, you want to talk about the
Let's
World
do Israel because that's the heaviest.
Yep, World Central Kitchen. That there was an article that I just posted a screenshot of last night that I will overlay onto the podcast to augment what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so as everybody probably knows by now, the Israel bombed and killed 7 aid workers that worked for the World Central Kitchen, which is a wonderful charity that provides food to places that need that aid. They've been in Ukraine. They've even done work in the United States after natural disasters. Um, Really good organization. Israel hunted down and murdered those aid workers. You can't say it any other way. Israel can say it was an accident all they fucking want, but the facts don't bear that out. Um, there were 3 separate attacks until they made sure every last one of them was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel got out of it what they wanted was World Central Kitchen ceased operating in Gaza. That had to be Israel's goal because they love watching the pictures of those children starving to death. Israel does. And apparently Joe Biden does too. But what struck me is that the tone out of the White House changed after this. And in fact, Biden called Netanyahu and made some demands about changing the way they do business in order to continue aid, which is the first time he's ever threatened to pull back the aid
Mm-hmm.
that we've been sending. And Israel complied immediately, which just proves that Biden could have stopped this a long time ago and chose not to. But the fact that this is where the line came in, not the hostages being shot by the Israeli hostages being shot by IOF soldiers, not the pictures of children starving to death, not when they designated refugee areas and then bombed them, not when they were distributing food and then killing the people that came to get the food. None of that bothered Biden, but this did. Why? Was it because some of those aid workers were white? I think it might be.
Absolutely. I mean, you always knew that this was how this was constructed. That the slaughter of brown people in that region is never going to raise an eyebrow for the American government. It is always and only going to be. I mean, I'm going to come back to something with this because the comparisons have been made frequently between what Putin was doing in Ukraine and what Netanyahu is doing in Israel. And the level, and I've supported both the Ukrainian resistance as well as the Palestinian resistance, but the um, let me jump to a third dynamic here because when you go back and you look at Syria and the crisis that has been going on now for I've lost count of the fucking years of what's been going on in Syria, but when there was a massive exodus of people from Syria trying to get out of that fucking country because of the slaughter that was going on over there. Some of those individuals made it to places like Poland and they made it that far west and they were denied entry for asylum. And there's only one fucking reason it's because of the color of their skin. There's no question about it. And people will say all the time, well, there aren't white terrorists in Western Europe. We've got to be careful of these brown people because they're scary. And so the Ukrainian refugees, when Ukraine blew up, were the fucking Poland swung open the doors for the white people of Ukraine. If and then you get into this whole thing about everybody's been talking, and this has been going on for 6 months, where people have been saying, um, open the that they criticize Egypt for not opening the borders. Well, Egypt doesn't control the border to Egypt from Gaza, but the people of Palestine have, for the most part, not wanted to leave their fucking homes. They've done this before. The West Bank and the exodus of Palestinians back in the fucking 40s and 50s. As soon as they left, fucking Israel took everything. They took everything
Mm-hmm.
that they had. But the fact that when people want to leave and they have the ability to remove themselves from that area, the fact that they're not white people means that countries close their fucking borders to these refugees. It's fucking disgusting on a level that This should be, but this has been going on for generations, and now we might be eking closer to finally flipping this paradigm. I'm rambling here, but let me touch on something. I've been aware of the whole Palestinian issue for a long time. I want to say going back to um, my mid 20s. And when I became aware of it, there was stuff going on in Israel, as there always has been, in Palestine. I talked with a friend of mine who was much smarter than me. He's now fucking crazy. He's paranoid schizophrenic, and he lives under a bridge somewhere, but that's another story. And
Plot twist.
and I was trying to understand the Israeli Palestinian issue. And he said something to me 20 some years ago that has stuck with me ever since. And he said, first and foremost, Israel needs to treat her people better. And by her people, he wasn't referring to Israelis, he was referring to Palestinians. Israel needs to treat her people better. And that was a true statement then. And still, that's only 20 some years ago that sort of shifted my paradigm, because my paradigm prior to that was the and I hate that this is the truth, the propaganda around what supported establishing the state of Israel. I mean that it there was a reality of how we got to what Israel is, but it was propaganda around that reality that gave Israel carte blanche to move in there and just upend everyone else's life. And
Well,
so,
I've read plenty of accounts of pre-war Palestine, pre-war, World War II, um, about how Christians, Muslims, and Jews all lived there together in
mhm,
relative harmony.
it's a fact.
And it wasn't until the Eastern European Jews, Zionists, came
Mhm.
over and created Israel that there started to be conflict. And it's because they stole all the land and started the apartheid.
Yep.
Um,
And
so yeah,
Zion,
I've been aware of it for a long time too. But of course, you have no choice when all you're being fed is propaganda. You can't be blamed for feeling the way the propaganda wants you to feel about an issue. It's only when you get to see the other side that you're able to make your own decision about how you should feel about things. So I don't blame anyone that only knows the propaganda for feeling the way they do. But when you get shown the images that are coming out of Gaza today and you still support Zionism, there's something fucking wrong with you.
well, yeah, and then I look at old clips of people that I question whether or not even I should be mentioning their names, like James Trafficant. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, I do. I know he was I don't remember exactly who he was, but I remember, was he was the Speaker of the House, wasn't he?
He
At some
might have
point, I don't
been,
know.
yeah. Everybody, the fucking crazy hair. That was James Trafficant. But and here's another one that's scary to mention his name, and some people aren't even going to know who he is. But fucking Pat Buchanan. So
Pat Buchanan, he
yeah,
ran for president.
yep. I was a staunch Buchanan Brigade supporter back in the day. But these are examples of people that were as vocal about the toxic existence of Zionism back then, and you can go all the way back to who was the president that we've seen black and white clips of. Was it? It's not LBJ. No, that was talking about how he had to agree to um, partition Israel the way that he did, and it was a bad deal all the way around. But we knew from the beginning that this was a bad deal. But even then, the Zionist lobby had the amount of power over the U.S. government to make sure that whatever they wanted, they were going to get. And and the decades that have gone by since then, the entrenched nature of that whole dynamic, the stranglehold that APAC and the Israeli lobby has on our government, a foreign fucking entity.
Yeah,
It,
it's crazy.
it,
There's lots of videos of journalists are starting to ask tough questions at press conferences that the government's having, State Department in particular. That State Department spokesperson looks like an asshole every day that he comes out there and doesn't answer the questions that
Yeah.
mostly European journalists are asking, by the way,
Yeah.
not American journalists, European journalists. Sky News comes to mind. There was also a video that I saw on TikTok. I don't know who it was, but someone was speaking at a press conference, and a young woman stood up to ask a question. And before she asked the question, the speaker said, "I'm going to call the police on you." Like, he didn't even know what she was going to ask. And it was a press conference.
Jesus fucking Christ.
"I'm going to call the police on you." Okay. Well, of course, she asked about the policy with Israel, and he didn't call the police, to his credit. But he did shut her down, didn't answer a question, and someone else stood up and asked a further question, and I don't know. But yeah, they don't want to ask questions. There's videos of people following Congress people like around the Capitol and trying to ask them questions, and they'll literally call them terrorists. "You're a terrorist for asking me that question."
Yeah.
What?
It's like they've been given a script, a series of responses by somebody to, and you just throw.
And I'll tell you, it's all of them. It's all of them. It's Akeem Jeffries. It's all of them.
Yep.
Democrats are just as guilty.
Yep.
Every last one of them. Well, maybe not every last one of them. Ilhan Omar is pretty good. Cori Bush, she's been critical of Israel. A few people.
But they're kept in check, aggressively kept in check.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think this
AOC, fuck her.
Yeah. Well,
lost all respect for her. I thought she was going to be president someday. I don't think so anymore.
Okay, here's the thing about her that I've been called out on. She represents a district that is, I don't want to say it's heavily Jewish, but it is also heavily Zionist. And so the things that she was elected to represent her district. That's the fucking truth. And she's representing her district in terms of how she votes to ignore Israel's bullshit and, not aggressively support the Palestinians. Is
fine,
that,
but she started being aggressive towards people that are asking her questions.
Truth. Yeah. Because she's got the same script that everybody else has been given. And you either do this or you don't have enough money to run your campaign. So
yeah, I guess we have to. I mean, I spend a lot of time criticizing politicians for not representing their district, so I see the point there. She is, at least, because that is what they're supposed to do. They're literally called representatives.
Yeah, it's really it's a whole toxic fucking relationship that. Because the thing that got thrown back at me is that you're criticizing her for representing her district. Fuck, I guess I am. I can't win with this one. But you're right. But
that's interesting because those, I don't know. She's not representing the district with the Orthodox Jews, is she? Because I've seen them being very critical of Israel.
Well,
they
yeah,
don't
because
seem
they
very
are
Zionist to me at all.
No, absolutely. That they are the difference between it's not the Jewish perspective. It is the Zionist perspective, and Orthodox Judaism definitely supports Palestinian freedom. There's no question about that. Then I've seen the videos of these Hasidic Jews and Orthodox Jews in Israel getting the shit beat out of them by Israeli cops because they're protesting against Israel. It's fucking crazy.
Another thing I just want to throw out there. I did see a news report that France was going to prosecute French citizens that had went to serve in the Israeli military that had committed war crimes. And I think that's interesting. I know South Africa was doing that already. But France announced that they were going to do that too. I would love for the United States to do that because there's a lot of Americans that went over there and committed war crimes.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be significant if the U.S. decided to do that.
Yeah, they won't. I mean, do you remember the Abu Ghraib, where the Americans were committing war crimes, and how much pressure it took before the government finally decided to punish them?
Yep.
They didn't just automatically do that. There was a ton of pressure.
Well, but I think the out that the U.S. government and the Department of Justice has with U.S. citizens who are going over to Israel to join the IDF is the citizenship issue that the whole citizenship issue between Israel and the United States is very fucking foggy. It's not like we have with any other country. The dual citizenship, and therefore that exonerates people in terms of doing this. But then again, they're going over there to participate in war crimes. That on its own should be a deal breaker for everyone. The fact that our fucking government is the one that is supplying everything Israel needs while they watch them commit war crimes with those munitions, this should have fucking destroyed this government by now.
I know we talked about it last week, but I still can't get over the 2,000-pound bombs that we sent that even we won't use because they're too indiscriminate and too damaging to civilian populations. We won't use them in our own wars against brown people, but we'll give them to Israel so they can use them.
Fucking unreal.
It's insane.
Oh.
Ugh. All right, let's lighten up. Everything else is pretty light on here, I guess.
Voters in Kansas City reject. I haven't seen this story, so you got to tell me what that is.
Yeah, so there was a ballot measure in Kansas City to renovate the stadium that the Kansas City Chiefs play in and to build the Royals a new stadium. These come up all the time in cities with major sports, right? The billionaire owners are always wanting public money to renovate their stadiums, and they're always saying, if you don't do it, we'll go to another city, and it happens. You know, I'm a big fan of the Cleveland Browns. They did that. they let their team left to find a new stadium somewhere else, and it sucks as a sports fan. But also, why are we giving public money to billionaires for any goddamn thing? We bail them out when they make bad business decisions, as evidenced in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, where the billionaires made bad decisions and the banks were going to go under, so we had to give them taxpayer money to bail them out. And we do this all the time with the stadiums. And there will be another city that'll pass a measure and give public funding to build a stadium. Maybe. I don't know, because the Oakland A's are having a hard time getting everything approved in Las Vegas for their new stadium. It's really not quite a done deal yet. So they're getting all the public money they want. But yeah, so this is down the road. The Chiefs have a lease through 2030, so they can't leave until then. I don't know about the Royals, but either way. But the mayor of Dallas has already said, I would love to see the Chiefs come back here because they were originally the Dallas Texans, and then they moved to Kansas City. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to put a package together. I would love for them to come here. And Dallas Arlington, I guess, already has a team. So...
Well, but to answer the question that you threw out, that might have been rhetorical when you asked it, but why are we giving taxpayer money to fund these things, support these things? Because they're looking at the tax revenue that will be generated by more people putting asses in seats and buying shit and all of that. It's really about that. It's not. It can't be about anything else. The governments are acquiescing to this because there's tax revenue to be made by additional people putting asses in seats.
Yeah.
And if we were to follow who benefits that though? Where does that additional tax revenue benefit the everyday person in that community? I don't know what that looks like, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's studies. I do seem to remember reading something about Atlanta because they built a new baseball stadium for the Braves while I lived down there. And I remember reading some study about the economic development, around the new stadium and how that would look and how it benefits the people. And I don't remember it being worth it in the end after reading the study, but I don't really remember it, so I can't really talk about it now, but maybe I'll try to find that before next week.
And there's got to be a way to look at the dollar amount that they're pushing toward these enterprises. Could that same dollar amount be pushed to social programs and other things, infrastructure, whatever else might be needed in that community directly to have a greater impact for the average person? Because the people who are having the greatest benefit from that are the fucking one percenters that are directly involved in that project. There's no question about that. So
Yeah.
that's where
Well,
the
the other
money.
thing I don't like how often teams are requesting new stadiums. Like the Browns stadium was built in 1995 maybe or 1994, and they want a new stadium too. They want a new stadium. I'm like, to me, that stadium's still pretty new.
That's a long time ago, bro.
I guess, but I mean, how old is Soldier Field? How old is
Oh, Comiskey.
Fenway Park?
Yeah,
How old is
I'm not even sure.
Wrigley?
Yeah, I'm not sure that does Comiskey Park. I don't think Comiskey Park exists anymore.
No, they got a new one. The White Sox got a new one, but the Cubs didn't. The Dodgers are playing in an ancient stadium. The Cubs playing in an ancient stadium. The Red Sox playing in an ancient stadium.
Yeah,
The Yankees did too until a few years ago. They just got a new one, but they were playing in an ancient stadium too
yeah.
for a long time. I don't know. You can play in old stadiums. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it all works the same way, doesn't it? Let's move over to the Biden administration and his jobs report versus the reality of fucking inflation.
Yeah, I mean, every jobs report that's been coming out is good. I mean, we're adding jobs more than experts predict every month. But I don't know. Everything's still too fucking expensive. Everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. People are canceling health insurance en masse because they can't afford it.
Yep.
I don't know if you read a report on that, but that's scary. That's a huge problem. In fact, this I'm going to be starting a new job here soon, and I was looking over the benefits package. In most places, you have to wait a while. You have to work there for a while before your insurance benefits kick in. And at this job, it's a government job. I don't have to wait for the benefits to kick in. Like I can get the group plan insurance right away, but I have to pay the full price for 3 months.
What?
And I was looking at the full price of health insurance for a family if I was to insure like my kids and stuff. Hang on, I'm having dog problems. Was the full I'd have to pay the full price. It was $480 some every 2 weeks.
What?
That's $900 a month.
It's fucking crazy.
For health insurance. That's crazy. And I saw someone else look at Obamacare. I don't know what state they were in, but they went to the Obamacare website in their state and were looking up the cost of insurance, and that's what it was. It was $700-800 a month. So when Obamacare first passed, I looked into how much it costs in Pennsylvania, and it was not that expensive, 8 years ago or whenever that. When did that pass? 2000. I don't know when that passed, but anyway, it wasn't that expensive back then. So the discount on Obamacare has lessened for sure.
Oh yeah, they've been chipping away at it actively. They've been campaigning on chipping away at it since it was passed. It's been the boogeyman for the Republican Party from the word go. I haven't been tracking it. I don't use it because I don't have to, and so I haven't been aware of how bad it's gotten in terms of it's more and more expensive, and it doesn't do what it was designed to do anymore.
Yeah, the best job I had, when I worked for the local hockey team. The owner was Canadian, and I didn't have to. Nobody had to pay a penny for health insurance because he didn't believe in it. Because he was Canadian, he's like, no, you shouldn't have to pay for health. So the company paid the full cost for everybody's insurance from day one.
Wow,
and that was nice. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. We can spend an hour talking about health insurance in America, but
just back on the issue of cost of living and jobs reports and how those numbers are fudged to anytime the sitting administration issues a report, or some entity connected to the sitting administration issues a report on jobs or inflation or anything else, don't fucking pay any attention to what they're saying, because they're never going to be telling you the truth. They're going to be manipulating the numbers to benefit them, and they're both fucking parties do this. There's no question about it. But on the inflation thing, I think we may have talked about this a week or two ago. is that they continue to tout, well, as inflation continues to go down, inflation has not gone down. The rate of inflation may have decreased, but inflation in terms of prices still going up is still happening. And so,
Right. And that gap between wages and prices that widened since the pandemic has not shrunk.
yep. Yeah, it's
So we are all poorer than we were,
yep.
8 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, whatever.
Well, yeah, and then back to another talking point that the morons on the right like to use is that, oh, gas was $1.83 a gallon during Trump's administration. Nobody was fucking driving because we were in lockdown because of a pandemic. Supply and demand is a real thing, and the fact that we weren't consuming enough gas to support, companies jacking up prices on gas, has nothing to do with anything strategic or beneficial that an administration did. It was a natural dynamic of
Yeah. I mean,
power.
oil at one point, actually, this wasn't during the pandemic, though. It was before that. I don't know. But the price of a barrel of oil had been down around $12, $13 at one point. And normally it's 70, 80, 90.
You know what?
So,
Yeah, but you know what kills me about the right wing troglodytes that love to see the low prices on a barrel of oil. These are the same motherfuckers who claim to be the champions of the blue collar worker. And when oil prices get that low, they stop refining. They scale
right.
back refining, they scale back drilling, they scale back shipping, they scale back all those things that costs blue collar jobs, and they'll just ignore the fuck out of that because somehow that doesn't work for them. It's fucking it's just, the stupidity is disgusting. I fucking hate it. Pure,
Yeah. Well, this
raw hate.
falls back. This ties into the moon train. I'm not really mad about the moon train. I just put that there because there's a lot of people on TikTok that are mad about the moon train. First of all, they're not building a moon train. There was a contract given to develop technology to potentially put a train on the moon at some point in the distant future. But I would like to have trains in America like they have in Europe and Asia. I lived in Korea and it was great taking a train to travel around the country. It was great,
Yep.
super cheap. You know, I mean, you spend a long time on a train. It's not as convenient as flying, but it's infinitely cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
That's hyperbole. It's obviously not infinitely. Don't come at me. but, uh, but yeah, and we don't have that. You have to drive everywhere, which keeps the oil prices high.
Yeah.
If you didn't have
Well,
to drive everywhere,
I'm sure that it's not unique to where I live, but when you made a comment the other day about using public transportation, and I told you we don't have public transportation here. It doesn't exist. We've got one little short bus that runs sometimes that, it literally can fit like 20 people max, that has a specific route that really benefits nobody. But if we had public transportation here, the area where I live, if you saw the traffic now, and we're not even in summertime yet, the traffic, like, there are days where I won't drive Uber because the road that connects, like Fort Walton to Destin, has to go over two bridges and over an island, and that fucking road has two lanes, and the traffic will be backed up for fucking 12 miles, not moving for hours. And if we had public transportation, that could put a huge dent in that. But nobody's even talking about it. There's no, I don't, I don't understand why people are like this, because the few times I've been to New York City to go on vacation, the fucking subway system, shut the fuck up. That was the greatest thing ever. I same thing in Montreal. I've been to Montreal a few times, and they've got a great subway system too. I could get anywhere I wanted without hoofing it 20 blocks on the cheap. And I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, yeah, we can't have subways here because we live on the ocean, but there's got to be options for public transportation, because it isn't like the population of places where I live are going down. They're always going up. We got 5 fucking military bases here that are never going to go away. They will never be sequestered. And so it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. And so the problems get worse and worse. But Nobody's doing a fucking thing about it.
Yeah, my favorite experience with public transportation was living in Korea when I lived in Seoul. First of all, they have a great subway system. There's a subway station every other block, pretty much. But the buses also, there's bus stops everywhere, and the buses run every 10 minutes. You'd never have to wait for the bus. Where I live now, you got buses run every hour and 20 minutes. If you miss your bus, I know this from driving Uber around here. People would miss their bus. They have to wait for another one's an hour, so they're going to be late for work. So they call Uber, and then they're spending their first 2 or 3 hours of work paying for their transportation to work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when I'm driving Uber here, there are people that are like regulars that need rides to their job, and their job might be 30, 40 minutes away. The amount of money that they're paying, and they're not working high end jobs, they're working service jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they're doing it. I really don't, because they're having to pay sometimes $30, $40 a day to get to their job and then get home. So that's $60 a day.
Yeah, well, they might very well have public assistance with their housing, which is great. I'm glad that exists.
Yeah.
I wish people didn't need it though. But they probably have that, so they can spend most of their paycheck on transportation, which it'd be nice if they didn't have to, but
Everything's awful.
everything is awful. Everything's awful when you live in capitalist country. We should get somebody to write that song.
Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham blew up during the last election, and I haven't heard anything from him. He should be doing some new material that is related to everything that's
All right,
from.
so I texted you earlier this week about something that's happening. Look, we got the eclipse coming. By the time anyone's
Oh,
watching this, it will
fuck.
have already occurred probably. But we got the eclipse happening, and I happen to live in an area that is where the area of totality goes right over this city. So there's a lot of people coming here. All the hotel rooms are booked. A lot of people are coming here to look at the eclipse, I guess. But one thing I noticed is that there's a private area of our airport. In fact, the Canadian owner that I used to work for, he used to fly his private jet into that private area of the airport for all of our home games because he lived in Toronto. But that private section of the airport announced that they had 50 planes coming in of people to watch the eclipse, and they're flying in on Monday, the day of the eclipse, in the morning, and they're just going to be parked there. They're going to get out of their planes, hang out on the tarmac, I guess, look at the eclipse, and then get back into their planes and fly off to wherever they came from. And I joked that I may spend the rest of my life in prison knowing that information because it's really hard not to go. I tried to look to see if there were going to be protests, like local people were going to go there to yell at the billionaires that were coming to look at the eclipse or anything. I didn't see anything. But yeah, it'd be a shame if something happened to all those planes while they were sitting there.
Sounds like an opportunity to me, but Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, the stupidity around this is profound. They're trying to connect you saw the earthquake up in Drew. You didn't feel that, did you? That was too far away.
No, I didn't. I was disappointed. Didn't
But
feel it.
people are trying to connect that to the fucking eclipse.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Oh
Well,
my
the thing
God.
is, it could. I mean, earthquakes can be instigated by the moon, by the gravitational pull of the moon. That is a thing. It doesn't have anything to do with the eclipse, but I mean,
No, and in particular, this particular earthquake is on a known fault line, so these sorts of things are not.
all earthquakes are on known fault lines. That's
Well,
where
right.
they.
I mean,
That's
so
where they happen.
it isn't some anomaly that has to be attributed to any.
No, I mean, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, which is the middle of the state, and we had a couple times earthquakes there. I mean, they're really small ones in the 4 range where you're not quite sure it's an earthquake. You like look at your little brother, like stop kicking the table kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then you hear about it in the news the next day that it was a 4.1 earthquake or something. They do happen in the Northeast. I have to believe there have been ones in New York City in the lifetimes of most of the people that live in New York City.
Yeah,
I have to believe there has been.
Yeah, when I lived up in Vermont, the first house that I bought, like the week that we moved into this house, got woken up in the morning by the whole fucking house shaking. We didn't know what the fuck it was. Turns out it was this would have been in 2003 or 2004. there was a quake off the coast of the Atlantic that sent shockwaves all the way to Vermont, and that was my only experience with an earthquake. I don't want to be in anything more than that because
No. I did see some funny responses to the New York City earthquake. People posting videos of the damage of the earthquake and then showing like a traffic cone that was tipped over. It's like stuff like that. And they put up, think about the victims of the New York City earthquake. I think that's a proper response and it's funny.
yeah.
But yeah, thinking that it is somehow related to the end of the world or something. I don't know if you watched Saturday Night Live. I didn't watch it, but I saw the SNL TikTok page on the Weekend Update yesterday, probably. They had a guy come out. He was the earthquake. He had a hat that had the New York City skyline on it, and he was funny. And then they had Kenan Thompson come out dressed as the eclipse. And they were joking with each other. It's a pretty funny clip. I recommend it.
I'll have to look
You can find it on the SNL TikTok page.
I shall look.
Yeah, making fun of the fact that people are thinking that it's somehow the end of the world. Eclipses happen all the time. Earthquakes happen all the time. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, we're never going to get rid of the apocalyptic doomers that are everywhere. You think education by now would have chiseled away at that, but it doesn't seem to.
I mean, if the people that really thought Monday was going to be the end of the world acted accordingly, maybe we could get rid of them.
That's a win.
Maybe they do dumb shit.
That could be a win. Yep.
But no, most of the people that are touting it are just grifting.
Mm.
But it's your average people that tend to believe it that are the real problem.
Yeah.
Their education is lacking.
Yeah, at some point.
All right, any odds and ends?
I don't think so. We've run the outline, and we keep coming in right at the same time slice of 45 to 50 minutes. We've got a good
rhythm.
Yeah, a good cadence going on. So,
all right, well, thanks for listening to us rant. Whether you like us or not, hit like, hit subscribe, drop a comment.
Yeah,
if you don't like us, we will happily argue with you. In fact, if you drop a pretty nasty comment, we'll even name you in our next episode.
Yeah, we'll do a whole reply to you so bring it on, motherfuckers. We had more people in this TikTok live than I've seen in the ones when we do this in the afternoon. So for my money, doing this in the morning seems to be a win.
Yeah. All right.
You doing that?
Well, I enjoyed having my coffee. I'm wide awake.
Yeah, I got to get some breakfast in me and then figure out.
Me too. I got to make breakfast for my kiddos.
That's your job. All righty. We're signing off.
All right. And adios. Till next week, everyone.
It's the geriatric narcissistic oligarch Olympics, and I got a front row seat. The bank owns the car, we rent the house, but at least we pay for the street. It's the big bitch and bona fide baby boomer boss battle end of 24. I just woke up in the 90s. Too bad I woke up poor. It's the AARP buy gold JG Wentworth Super Bowl, and their parents are out of the way. So you got a lot of explaining to do for why you got a raw diarrhea. It won't be long till the finale, singing Hotel California in the holy eternal choir. For giving us such amazing music, we could almost forgive you for a situation this damn dire. It's the geriatric narcissistic oligarch Olympics, and we've all got a front row seat. As long as I can use the Wi-Fi, as long as I ain't got a thing. That's how this Friday